Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Unique Peace. I am Janice. I am a Reiki Master Teacher and Intuitive Medium here on Long Island. I am also your host, and today I am so excited to be joined by Turab. He is the host of Turabify on YouTube. He is also on Instagram, and you can find his videos there. They're very insightful, very fun. He is also a dentist. So I want to understand how to help people feel comfortable in the dental chair because sometimes I am not. And I know I'm not alone. And I'm going to welcome Turab to the show as everyone else. Good morning.
Hello, how are you?
I am good. How about yourself?
Good, good. Happy Sunday. Enjoying the opportunity to chat. Thanks for bringing me on.
Of course, I was very excited. We have a mutual friend, Fizz. He does VR, and he made the beautiful connection here today.
I've been trying to get a little bit more acquainted with people and get on their podcast and try to talk about life. So please, I mean, you seem like you wanted to chat about something in specific. So I guess we'll get into that first.
Yeah, so I noticed in some of your videos, you're talking about how you were in medical school, you were in dental school, and you're like, most people will think of a terminal degree. And when people say terminal, oh my God, I used to think that way too. Terminal degree means there's nothing more to learn. Even if you wanted to continue learning, you couldn't. And what I loved about the video that I watched is you're like, no, there's always more to learn. Maybe not necessarily in the field you went to school for, but there's always more to learn. So kind of talk us through how you came to that point.
So thank you for watching my videos. I appreciate you. So I've kind of been a Renaissance man, I suppose, for a very long time in my life. I started painting when I was in senior year of high school, went all the way through college, went all the way through dental school, and up till now I'm still painting. I started doing, hello, Mike. I started doing music around sophomore year of college. And so by virtue of kind of having these different artistic exploits, I was also reading a lot of books. I was talking to a lot of hopefully intellectual people that I still kind of keep in touch with. My brain kind of going into dental school was already kind of equipped to be like, no, this is not exactly the only thing that I want to do with my life. You know, like I have a firm belief that all of the things that we do in our spare time, all of the like our hobbies, you know, are the way that the things that we read, the things that enter our space subconsciously, like really play into our professions and really play into our career life as well. So going through dental school, I mean, I've never really liked school. You know, being a creative spirit in education in any capacity is like it can be very pigeonholy, right? It's like, okay,
Yes.
do this, like you have this course, you do this thing, you do this thing, and you get through and you get this degree and then you're set. And so in dental school, I was like, I saw all these stressed out people around me all the time, like incredibly type A individuals that are focused on millimeters of like, you know, reduction of a tooth, like doing surgeries and stuff like that. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love thinking about things macroscopically. You know, I love thinking about things as strategies, as ecosystems, as like the spiritual aspect of Reiki, for instance. You know, like there's a lot of stuff that you have to incorporate and kind of be at peace with, and in my opinion, to kind of live a beautiful life. So my thing is, you know, as if we give into the philosophy in the world currently that us going through the stages with the carrot at the end of the stick and following the carrot and eventually we'll get this carrot, well, I say set your own carrot. You know, like why not have dreams that go beyond perhaps your lifetime so that you can become the greatest, you know, live the most beautiful life possible. So that's kind of the vibe behind it.
And that's very true and very beautiful because I would say that when I got my undergrad, I was very much that type A. I went in, I knew exactly what I was going to do, and nobody was going to stop me. And those who know me and know me well, especially from that period of time, even probably younger than that, know that I'm a force to be reckoned with at times. It's like, you said no and you try and be a boulder. I will find a way around you. I will climb over you. You're not going to stop me. But as I got older and more experience in the real world, it's so much more than that. It's easier to try and be the river
Mhm.
that goes around and is in flow. And even now, I mean, we are human, so that's not necessarily easy to be in flow and be the river, but it, it's always worth the effort in trying. So,
For sure.
and like you said, you're dealing with people who are like a millimeter of a tooth. And it's like, yes, our smiles are important, but there's more to us than our smiles.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is actually so I have the opportunity now to join my mom's dental practice here in Ohio. And so she's been like looking for years to get me into dentistry. She's like, oh, finally got the dental license, doing the thing. And I came in here with all these ideas of business and all these ideas, these big ideas of how I want to change Ohio and get into commercial real estate and change people's perception of how they get educated with their health in general. And she's like, oh my goodness, this is a little overwhelming. Uh, and I was like, don't worry about it. I'll take care of most of it. Just kind of do the work that you wanted to do. And so I'm kind of in the practice as the manager and hiring people and trying to create the systems where um, my patients just feel comfortable. Like I really believe that when it comes down to anything that we do, our reputation is everything. So it's like, why would you not treat people like you would your family or like close, people that you actually really love as much as you can. I think there's an issue with medicine in the United States and probably all over the world where doctors almost perceive themselves as machines,
Yeah.
right? Like you get out and you're kind of part of this workforce and you have all of these kind of quotas you got to hit, certain time frames that you see patients and do this thing, and it kind of creates this environment that isn't necessarily about people's health. It's not
Yeah.
really necessarily about people's souls or like the ideology behind, hey, if someone has jaw pain over here, right, and they're waking up every night and grinding their teeth, does it have to do with just their tooth or their mouth? No, it has to do with, are they stressed out, right?
Right. I was going to say there's so much more to that.
Like do
It's
they
very
have,
much.
yeah, like what's going on in your life, like and I think Reiki and a lot of the meditation practices, a lot of I talk a lot about spirituality too on my channel,
You do.
because it's a huge grounding force for me, so I completely understand the importance at least of digging deeper and seeing our higher selves. Like it's I'm doing research on some of the very successful people in the world. It seems like that's a fundamental part of their philosophy as well.
It absolutely is. And im- I don't want to use the word imperative in a bad way, but it's imperative that we remember that and we go back to ourselves. And it's not necessarily easy in the States. Here in the States, it's not necessarily welcome for you're not getting the job done. You're not getting the job done. I need to go here. I need to go there. I need to do this. I need to do that. You see yourself as successful by how much you do, not necessarily how much you slow down. But when you slow down, you can achieve so much more. And when you go within and say, okay, that doesn't feel right, you save yourself so much heartache. It took a long time for me to get there. I can speak from experience, is like, oh, every time it's very funny because my stepdad was always one to tell us, go with your gut. You don't want to be sitting in a jail cell going, damn, I should have listened to myself. That's because every time he ignored that little voice in his head, something happened. And when I look back at certain points in my life, I can say, yeah, I should have made, when you come to that crossroads, I should have went this way, not that way. But what did this way teach me? You got to remember, what did I learn by making that wrong turn? There are no mistakes.
Mhm.
So in your experience, and doesn't sound like you necessarily wanted to go to dental school. It was kind of like my mom, my dad, family expectations. You're seeing yourself in that same kind of situation, but making it work. What kind of helps you along that way?
Great question. Thank you so much for that synopsis. Um, I think For me, dental school was, yeah, definitely like it was an external locus of control. I think if I getting out of college, I would have probably had I not had the influence of my mother and other doctors in my family, I probably would have became like an ecologist or a researcher and like gone abroad and done these other things. But it became, and I had like I think I had a I must have like 3.2 or 3.4 or something getting out of college, you know. So like I didn't have like this crazy high GPA that I could just go and like, you know, hop on any medical program and get accepted at any place. I really had to work for it. Like I had to do a post-bac degree for a year, which cost like 80K, you know, and then you
Mm,
go and you have to go and do all these loops and stuff. But the whole time before I embarked on the journey, I was like, I was trying to figure out what it meant to have power in life, like what it meant to be a powerful soul, like a powerful human being. And I realized that a lot of the stuff that I was doing in college was kind of, it wasn't, I wasn't very disciplined, and I wasn't very, like, I had confidence in the sense of talking to people and kind of discussing things and having ideologies, but I didn't have the confidence in like a worldly sense, like that I have certain achievements. And so when I went into dental school, for me it was like, if I can, thank you, if I can get through potentially like some of the hardest education that's provided in the world, then I know that at least I have that capability. And so I went into it with like almost like training myself to be able to put out the amount of work, to schedule myself, to routine myself. And also in the process I was creating a lot of like organizations. I created the Health Sciences Music Club to help people kind of de-stress in such a difficult environment. We used to
that is
play
awesome.
shows. We used to play shows in cafeterias and on like in the hospital, on the children's hospital, you know, and just have this it was a lot of work, like on top of obviously doing the studying and all of that. And I do some public health clubs and stuff that I got involved in, got to know administration. So the idea was, okay, do the thing that's considered hard in society, but also make sure that you're injecting your own soul into it. That you don't come out of this as kind of a product of a larger system. That in fact, like I say on Turabify, that I believe that people that are creative and kind of have this background of wanting to build things, we tend to be catalytic in societies. And for those of you that don't know what a catalyst is, essentially, or a chemical reaction has a certain amount of potential energy that needs to be reached in order for that reaction to go through. So
Yes,
catalyst has the ability to lower that energy. It has the ability to make that transition smoother, or sometimes it can make it, you know. So it's essentially an additive force. And I think going throughout school, going even into school, I knew that I had the ability to kind of at least affect slightly my environment. And the vibe was always supposed to be kind of like a positive, kind of encouraging. I've always hated bullying. You know, I always hate like in friend groups if people talk shit about each other, or like people are nitpicking, you know, like what people look like, this and that. So it's supposed to be, I went into it to understand what power is essentially. And on the other end now, I'm beginning to understand that it's a significant amount of work that you need to kind of build up your like mental and physical muscles, like your body in general. But also there needs to be a sense of vision. There needs to be a sense of like, why are you doing this? Why you want the damn power, right? So you might have all this money, you might have all these ideas, all this network and everything. But if there's not like a succinct philosophy, in my opinion, a succinct opinion about where you want to go, then that power can be misused and it can corrupt people. You know, it can
yeah.
it can, it can kind of, anyway. So that's kind of, that was it.
So, in taking all of that and like, okay, it's time to, because I know a lot of people in my friend group from college. When they came in from high school, they were like, they didn't have the highest GPA. They were kind of slackers, and they didn't, I was like, I'm here because my mom and my dad told me I had to go to school. I have to do something. And it's like, they actually learned so much about themselves, about like discipline and stuff, because that can go either way. You can have all this wonderful potential and go in and you have that discipline, you're ready to go, or you can go in and continue to say, Nobody's telling me to go to class. I get to sleep in. So you develop that self-discipline and you really put in the work and the effort. And so that is in itself is a good story. In so many people have that similar story, and you've taken it and you've tried to make the dental practice peaceful, your own life peaceful, and spread that to others. So how do you, Turab, define peace for yourself?
Another great question. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. This is really, really fun.
Grace says The Power of Love by Huey Lewis and the News. That is very true. The power of love gets us farther.
True. Peace. There was I think the closest thing, I don't know if you've seen that video on YouTube of that man with the beanie. He's like a very spiritual guy, and he has this video about peace where there's a lot of that video where he's essentially he's giving the viewer the ability to find almost a friend in themselves, to find like a constant force that's kind of just available to us. And I saw actually your video with the other Reiki master, and this like
Franz, yes, I
yeah,
love Franz.
this kind of vibes with that for sure. That it's essentially giving yourself permission to breathe, in my opinion, and also to let stimulus in to our life that we don't necessarily value, like all the time, right? So it's like an awareness of your space, almost, and an awareness of also perhaps the larger system that you're a part of, the larger sphere of humans or whatever. And Aldo Leopold, kind of the founder of modern ecological thought, he said something like, humans are not often aware that our communities are larger than just the humans that we have around us, right? Like the birds, the grass, the trees, the flowers. I mean, it's spring now. If you have the chance to like just look outside for a second and
Yeah.
just really appreciate how beautiful nature is and how powerful it is. To me, it's like it's almost a quiet. It's almost so quietly serene. That in itself, in achieving that state, you kind of get energy. You get this energy from the universe around you almost. So to me, peace is almost like a plugging into the system, into the universe. You know, you're like, you got all these thoughts, you got all this crazy stuff going on, all these great crazy ideas. Sometimes I look for peace when I'm the most stressed out, when I'm just like, there's been times in my life where I've just been so angry, you know, at things, or like so beat up, or like that I failed so much. And in those moments, the thoughts just keep coming, they just keep coming, they just keep coming. And you think, oh, you know, I could have done this, I could have done this.
Yeah.
But there's, in The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, it's like a 14 book series, a fantasy novel.
Yep.
And he talks about this thing called the void. He talks about how we essentially as human beings have the ability to cut out all of this other stuff and figure out just the one thing that makes us completely neutral. Like it doesn't have up highs or lows. It's just right there in the middle. And I feel like if we can find that point consistently, like you said, when you know how to slow down, right, then everything else starts to make sense.
And I love that because it does. It's when you are the most stressed that you need the most peace. That it's when you're at your most stressful point during the day, during the week, or what have you, where we need to stop and say, what is going on? And kind of like I was going through a very stressful period of time in my life once, and you remember the Wizard of Oz with the tornado? I just had to be Dorothy in the eye of that tornado and just let everything go on around me. Acknowledge that chaos. It's like I see the house, I see the munchkins, I see everything, and how do I not let it affect me? And that's kind of where you're at. It's like we've got all this stuff going on, but how do I get to that point?
It's I think it's a bit of a muscle, right? Like that's the whole teaching of meditation to a degree, is like being able to plug into that and just try to feel it, every now and then. The biggest thing, have you ever gotten into transcendental meditation at all, Janice?
I have attempted. I'm not going to say that I feel I've done it successfully, but I can say I have attempted it. And I just want to shout out to Grace, where she said, "Don't be sharp, don't be flat, just be neutral." I love it.
Love
Peace on. And that's my Michael is my other half as well. So we're
Okay.
always good together.
So do you mind if I ask you a question on how, well, may I?
Yeah.
Okay. So what is it that I love to dig into things that people are passionate about. To me it's like the sweetest thing on earth, is like trying to figure out what really drives human beings. So what kind of got you into the spirituality in your life? Like what forces or what influences were the biggest kind of contributors for you to, I guess, plug in?
I actually love that question because it's going back to when I was very little. I just didn't know what was happening when I was very little. So I lost my dad when I was very young. So I feel like I've always been connected and protected. Again, just didn't know it at the time. And as life progressed, it became more and more apparent that I've always been the Sesame Street song in my family. One of these things just doesn't belong here, and that would be me and my family. So I was always very strong in my faith, and my faith brought me through a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And there came a point in my life where I was in a very dangerous relationship, and I needed a way out that was safe. And I was doing some very intensive mediumship coaching and learning. And two of my colleagues, two of my classmates recommended my Reiki master teacher. And when I went to Reiki, that's when life made sense. It's like, oh, I've been doing this. I've just didn't know what I was doing. So in the structure of Reiki actually helped because we do need, it was just something I was writing about today because I also am a self-care coach, is we do need the routine and the self-discipline to start, but we can't get caught in the stagnation of routine. So it's very important. It's like, okay, get up, do this, do this, do this, and just keep going through the motions. That's great to get started. And that's how we teach our kids. But at the same time, there's going to be curveballs and, wrong turns and all sorts of things that come up that jar us and jostle us out of that routine. So what's important to remember is routines are very helpful, but don't get caught up in them. It's like, okay, I need to exercise today. Exercise could look like going for a walk. It could look like going to the gym. It could look like yoga. It can look like so many different things. It doesn't have to be the same thing over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation, same thing. Meditation could look like quietly folding the laundry. It could be getting caught up in cooking a meal. It could just be sitting in silence. So people get caught up. I can't meditate. All of those things are meditative states.
Mm-hmm.
And peace is a big thing for me because it's like, okay, it took so long for me to feel like I found peace. Now it's important for me to share that. And there's more than one way to find peace, just like there's more than one way to exercise and meditate and get work done.
I love it. So it comes from this need to find I guess that middle point that you can like start reflecting from, right? Because a lot of turmoil. So my father passed away when I was 9 years old. So I probably have a very similar situation, or at least a progression of trying to rationalize life and everything. And I think I have a feeling. So one of the big things that I preach about in Turab is like, if you're gonna go and set out to find this power in life, the power to be routine, be consistent, and to move towards a goal, that to incorporate service into it.
Yes.
and try as hard as you can to have a percentage of the output actually give back. And there's this concept. I don't know if you came across Grant Cardone ever. A lot of people
No,
don't
I
like
don't know
him. He's
that
kind of he's like a real estate mogul, like marketing genius, like billionaire guy that tries to inspire lots and lots of people. And so he's been a force that kind of started me on the Turabify journey, because one day in dental school, hopefully you can't. Can you hear the anything in the background, or just hear my voice? Okay, good.
I just hear your voice.
Okay, good. In dental school, somewhere around my senior year, I was like, okay, I've been doing all this stuff. Like I have all these skills. Well, I'm building all these skills, and I don't really know where to guide it. And he said, come up with something that's going to be way beyond your current capabilities. Come up with something that like you'll have to change fundamentally the things that you do and the way that you think in order to achieve that goal. And it got me thinking, and I did the classic experiment or the exercise of writing down where you want to be in the future, and thinking about the wealth, the people that you want to be around, your emotional state, how you want to wake up in the morning, perhaps an event in time, and trying to really imagine it in my head. And what I realized is that you can have tremendous amounts of change when you first embark on that journey of like being routine, and like you said, and over time there's a lot of things that are going to get in our path. There's a lot of things that are going to be like, am I doing this right? Adam Grant wrote a book, Think Again, and in which he talks about consistently, he's like, some of the things that we put in place, some of the truths that we have in our lives are kind of destined to change. They have to change in order for us to grow. It's almost like I imagine like a tree, in like a box, right? It's like, okay, you have all these branches going everywhere. Uh, Sooner or later, you're going to hit the box. So
Yep.
what can we do to kind of break those walls open to allow that tree to grow to the maximum potential? It's like you got to learn a lot, or you got to get more routines, or you got to get more spiritual, right? There's like all these aspects that kind of grow a box. Um, And so the audacious goal that I've set for myself for my lifetime is to contribute to humanity's emotional intelligence. Is to genuinely, like, everything that I do should be centered around giving people environments, resources, opportunities, whatever it is, to build out that skill set to kind of make that box a little bigger, to allow yourself to be the most nourished tree that you can be to a degree, right? And I think you're probably on a very similar wavelength and trying to help
Yes.
people in that sense.
Yes. It's very important to help and give back because for me, it's very personal in the sense that I never felt that I had that support, but I was always giving it to others naturally, but I never felt I had it. So it's very important for me to help people feel like there is someone there to help them. There is someone there to support them and meet them where they're at. The biggest challenge for me was meeting people where they were at because I want to bring them up.
Mm.
Um, but we got to start somewhere. And so it's always, finding ways to give back at the level you can give back. Because sometimes, we are spent ourselves. We need to replenish ourselves. So you can't, it's like Shelter, for instance, as you bring up the tree, Shelter, for instance, the giving tree. The tree gave and gave and gave until it couldn't give anymore. So that's very important to remember too.
Yeah.
Is to replenish yourself so that you can give back to others. But for me, it's always been about finding ways to help others. It's like I don't like seeing people in pain because I know what it's like to be in pain. I don't like to see people in emotional suffering because I like, what that's like. So that's the empath. And it's like I feel your pain. And it's important to remember is okay, you may feel their pain, but don't take it on.
Mm.
That's a challenge.
Yeah, it's like where are you at in order to deliver that message? And I make videos every day, So it's like it can get pretty daunting to be like, hey, am I gonna have a positive vibe every single day? Am I gonna have something tremendous to say every day? No, no. I'm not gonna have all the answers, and I'm not gonna be always in the best emotional state to give the whatever useful information or whatever thing is. So I think it's just I think the ideal is probably to just have that in the back of your head, to have that plugged in. It's like I would like to give back. And so the reason I brought up Grant Cardone is when it comes to helping people, I think we get to a point where as empaths, we don't know how to help ourselves. Right? Like you just said, like that time alone. And so I wanted to drop a quote from him because I think this is actually relevant in trying to connect the whole monetary societal aspect of things to our soul spiritual aspect. And he said that poor people, poor people spend money. He said middle class people save money. He said rich people invest money. And he said
Mhm.
wealthy people give money away.
Yep.
So I'm sure this triggers a lot of memories or a lot of philosophies in your head in terms of kind of the way that you carry yourself. But really, money can be substituted by so many other things, right?
Yeah.
Time, energy, whatever it is. If we want to be wealthy in any capacity in our lives, the ultimate state is to be one of giving, right? So it's like how do you nurture your soil, your environment, or your routine, so that that's kind of a natural byproduct of it. That's always kind of what I'm thinking about in terms of my brand and dentistry or whatever else.
So, and that's a very good point. And I just want to go back a few sentences. And you were saying that you do videos every day. That's absolutely commendable. And you know that some days you're just not gonna have it to bring it. And there are days when you're going to be really stressed out, just in general, because we all are. And so how do you find peace? What is what's your go-to? How do you find that?
Mm. So part of the
Yes, right.
so
With giving that in that we receive.
it's in the
So
giving that we receive. Yeah. So I'm actually making a series right now of YouTube videos on Khalil Gibran's The Prophet, which is essentially my spiritual guiding text, in which he talks about a variety of different parts of life and kind of breaks it down in a very optimistic sense, which is such a beautiful thing. Um, it can get very very taxing. The piece in my life, I wrote down maybe about 8 months ago, kind of like a life checklist. And the philosophy that I try to go with this is every day is a lifetime.
hmm,
So it's like figure out. I try to figure out what it is that really makes my soul. Tries to makes up all of my needs, my wants, my skills, my gifts, whatever it is, and then try to find the things that I can do every single day to either nail that or to build towards it. And so to me, one of the major things to incorporate was a sense of serenity, which I believe is probably congruent with peace. But the artwork that I make, a lot of the paintings that I do, and a lot of the music that I make, to a degree, the way that I talk, because I also consider my voice an instrument. Um, all of it is supposed to convey serenity. It's supposed to convey passively the sense of peace. Um, and I think the flow state that for instance, when I'm talking to you right now, when you give me the opportunity to chat for a second, the flow state that we get into when I'm constructing a point, or when I'm constructing a piece of art, or when I'm like really in the music and I feel that like groove really come in and I feel the pocket, that to me, if I can do that 5 minutes a day, if I can paint for 5 minutes a day, and I can create music for 5 minutes a day, or listen to music for 5 minutes a day, that's the peace component built in. There's also last thing I'll say, there's also the morning is very, very important. We just, this is our morning, right? We talked a little bit about that.
Yep.
I'm a firm believer that your morning, the first hour of your day, is essentially your inertia, right?
Yeah.
It like sets the momentum. It's like the big bang of your day, right? It's like okay, what else is going to happen from here? So I think it's very, very important for me personally to be like, to check in for a second. Obviously, do what you got to do, right? Like don't check in. I believe don't check in at the expense of productivity, but check in at the very least to say to yourself, hey, I'm here. You know that I'm your friend. We're hanging out. We're gonna try to have a good day. You know.
And Michael is agreeing the flow state is everything. Oh.
I agree. I agree.
And mornings are important. I remember when I was starting out on the journey of Reiki specifically, but like right before that, when I was still learning intensively my mediumship skills, I would wake up. I used to get up at 6:30. Then I got up at 6, and I do gratitude journal, and then I would wake up at 5:30 because I found that I had a little bit more to do before my day started. And then I read the 5 a.m. club, and I have been getting up at 5 a.m. And believe it or not, from 5 to 7 is very important and productive for me.
Mm.
It just, with the mind clearing, and there's certain things of this, the aspects of self-care. It's like, okay, I can get up and I can enjoy my coffee versus trying to chug my coffee and get on the road and be in rush hour traffic. No, I take the time to enjoy my coffee, and during that time I can journal or read. And then at 5:30, it's like, okay, I get up and it's like time to exercise. So you can do a half an hour to an hour and not feel rushed. For me, it's about, as you said, being in that inertia and that starting point. It's like, I don't feel I have to start at full speed.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also a conscious choice. There are people who are like, I value my sleep, so they have to find different points in their day to check in with themselves.
100%. I think, yeah. I think at the core of it, if there needs to be, one of my mom's older brother is like a fairly successful psychiatrist, and he said that there should be about 15 minutes in the day, every single day. You got to check in, like you
Yep.
got to check in with yourself. So that's kind of where I find mine. Would you say that is so? There's obviously our dreams of where we want to go. You know, the step by step functions that are required. And there's that peace component. It's essentially reason and passion. They're competing
Yes.
oftentimes, right? Uh, where do you consistently, like over the course of the day, are you trying to find that peace, or is it okay for you to be out of that for the sake of moving that needle?
When I don't check in, like if I'm really stressed out and I don't check in, things go downhill fast. And I've learned that. I've learned that after many decades. And so since I've been on my spiritual journey and my spiritual path, not just my path of faith, but it's like, okay, I'm going to have to stop and find out what is triggering me. Why is it triggering me? What am I contributing? And how can I make any change? And people are like, oh, well, that's not peaceful. That's going to bring me peace, because then I can move forward and not, want to scream or yell or feel like I'm going to have a meltdown, because that's what's going to happen. You reach your boiling point and then you start boiling over. I don't want to reach the boiling point again, because that's really not helpful.
Yeah.
What does it's not helpful.
Would you say that there is, so I made a painting of the 7 deadly sins a while back. And the philosophy of the painting was that each of the sins is a component almost of power. It's a component of obviously the human condition, but there's a very negative aspect of each of the sins. But if used in a certain way, there's also a positive that you can run off of it. That you can, like for instance, if you're Robin Hood, right? Or you're trying to, you're greedy for money, but you're using it to help things, to change things. You could think about Mr. Beast, for instance, right? Like on YouTube, right? Would you say he's a greedy person? Maybe greedy for life, greedy for soul, whatever. Is it a bad thing? I don't know. So to me, it's like there is, when you have big goals and when you have big things that you want to do in life and really like try to inject your whole soul into it, I think it's very important to know that though you may leave peace for a period of time for the sake of this exploit, for the sake of this expedition, this journey, that you will be able to find it again.
Nice point.
You know,
That's a good point.
because it's required. Like there's a certain amount of aggressiveness in our lives. Like if we're trying to find a partner, for instance, and they're not really seeing us or whatever, then you got to go out and say something. You got to be in their face, or there, or you're trying to get a loan for a house or something, and you know that if you worked like X amount of hours more, but your boss isn't giving you that, like maybe you got to do some things in your life that aren't really all that peaceful, but that really need to be done in order to get you to the point where you can be more consistently peaceful. There's like this the metaphor of the tree below the ground is just as complex as a tree above the ground, just as deep.
Just as deep. I love that metaphor. That is excellent. That I think that's better than the iceberg
Interesting.
because
Cool.
um, well, because the roots. So
Hmm.
as you're growing, we what we see and are showing ourselves on the surface, what the world sees, not necessarily what we're doing, but we're doing a lot more work. Where the iceberg is just kind of always been there.
Yeah, just the top bit. Yeah,
It's just floating. Whereas with the tree, it for me it resonates a little bit more because you're growing as you're growing.
and it's equal. It has to be equal. Like the tree, if the wind comes through and tries to blow this tree down, the only thing holding it up is actually its root system, how deep it is in the ground, and it's that to me is not necessarily peaceful, right? Like spending those moments alone, reading the books, having the hard conversations, waking up early, making sure that you're actually showing up on time when you tell people you're going to be there at 11 a.m. You know what I mean? Like it's so I think a lot of people in this space of peace get too caught up in trying to consistently find that peace and go with the flow. And you've probably come across this in your life because you're obviously very very productive, and you try to, you do all of the best things that you can for your career, and you reach out to these people and help all these people, so you know that it requires a tremendous amount of effort and a tremendous amount of discipline to actually execute, right?
Yes.
But I think a lot of people are like, oh, I'm just kind of out here just doing my thing, and I don't need to change as a human being. Like I'm just fine the way that I am, and this and that. I'm like, okay, well, what are your dreams and goals? Like what? And they're like, what do you mean? I don't have dreams and goals. I'm like, well, that's why you're okay with being where you're at, because there's no other place to go, you know.
Uh, and on that note, how would so we both have several people in our lives that are probably overcome by stress more than they are in a peaceful flow state. So how do you help others find peace?
Great question. Thank you. I'll ask you the same thing actually, probably right after this. So to me, it's always been about inclusiveness. So any sort of friend group or any sort of social outing that I'm at, either I'm in a mood where I'll just sit in the corner of the room and watch, or I'm in a mood where I'll be right in the middle, but I'll make sure that everyone around me, if they say something awkward or if someone's being a bully to them or something like that, that I go out of my way to be like, try to assuage that. Not to like punch in the face, but just to be like, let's motion this. So for instance, dental patients that come in, right? They're like, "Oh my God, I'm so anxious of the dentist, and I've had XYZ memories, and like I hate needles and all of this." And I look at them, I listen. So there was a book, Compassionomics, and it was a systematic review of like 200 um, uh, papers on compassion, and it essentially deduced that the most effective medical model is actually one of compassion, because it reduces fees, it increases patient adherence to patient plans, and it increases their just life quality, because they know that people care about them. And it's said in that book that if you listen to someone, even if you don't care about what they're saying, count in your head at least for 20 seconds. Sit there and let them say what they need to say for at least 20 seconds. And so many healthcare providers don't do this, right? They'll give it like 5. They'll get bored and they'll be like, okay, whatever. So the first step for me is always to sit there and just, when I come into the room, hi, my name is Turab. And then I sit there and I listen to them. Straight up, just listen. Right? So that's the first step. Okay, someone's here to care for you. The next step is to say to them, listen, I understand that you've had difficult experiences in the past. I understand that, you've had a difficult experience recently, right? I'm not here to make your life more hard. I'm here to help you. And the Reiki aspect actually does come in a lot in dentistry and in medicine, as you definitely probably know, is that there was a speaker, Dr. Jeffrey Gurian, that came in to do a seminar, like a five-piece seminar at my dental school. And he's like a spiritual healer. He actually does Reiki and helps people heal their temporomandibular joints and stress and stuff. And he said he's always been an empath. He's like, I believe in the power of touch, right? So in a professional setting, touch is very finicky, right? Yep. So if you're not, as a male doctor, you're not supposed to be in the room with a female alone.
Nope.
Right? At all. You're supposed to have someone there, right? As a dentist, you're literally in someone's mouth, which is probably people's most like secure private space in the body, aside from maybe our genitals. You know what I mean? Like it's that intense. So to establish that rapport, to establish that care, you really have to be there. You really have to be like listening, but also to reassure people that fine, you're having a difficult experience in life, but let's be positive. First and foremost, I'll be like, it's a nice day. They're like, rain or shine. I'll be like, it's a nice day. I love the rain. Fuck it. What does it matter? I love the sunshine. Okay, fine. I had a hard day. I had a difficult patient, whatever. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. That's my entire job. So I think in creating an environment in which people can feel comfortable is a very good start.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That is why in my space I was very deliberate in the colors I choose. It's very the way the room is set up, the way people come in. People will come in and they may have had Reiki before, and I explain, just like going to a different medium or a psychic medium or going to a new doctor or what have you. Every experience you have is going to be different. But I'm like, I made some very deliberate choices. Like when someone walks into my space, I want them to be comfortable. I want them to be at ease. And that's very important. I mean, it's like,
I definitely have felt it. Like we chatted right before, came in. Hey, how you doing? Actually caring. You know what I mean? Like it helps. It's a tremendous help.
Yes. And listening is important for sure. And in trying to meet people where they're at, and in order to figure out where they're at, you have to pay attention to what they say.
100%. And
body language as well. That's like, okay, what they're saying and how they're interacting are not really jiving. There's either more work that needs to be done or more talking on their end, so that it's like they can be more at ease with, like you're going into somebody's mouth, like you said, you want them to not shake like a rabbit with or without Novocaine. So,
and the touch aspect's very important. And like for instance, I'm sure all the viewers, including maybe yourself, has been to a dentist that has a pretty rough hand.
Yes.
Like you can feel that, like the difference between having a delicate touch and having a rough touch is going to determine your amount of amount of peace that the patient can experience, right? Yeah. Even just in going through and opening someone's mouth, looking at their gums and that, right? If you do it rough, that's a whole different thing than being like smooth and calm about it. Bless you.
Thank you. Yes, and my son was actually terrified to go to the dentist for a while because of that. And now we have one dentist, and very picky. His office is now like 45 minutes away from where we live, and I will go that 45 minutes away from
Wow,
where
I
we
love it.
live just to make sure he's comfortable. He's a pediatric dentist, so next year will be his last year with this dentist, and so then it's having to build a rapport and start over for him, finding someone he trusts. And you're
It's
going to
not
know
easy.
that very, but you can know very early on. It's like when I, finding a doctor, I actually had to change doctors in one respect because I did not like the bedside manner I started with and the bedside manner that I was ending up with were different. I was like,
Mm,
no, this is no longer comfortable to me. And that's important. You have to trust your doctors. You have to trust anybody who's going to be touching you in any way, shape, or form, or being in your life for any extended amount of time. So all of that is important. And like I said, for now, I drive 45 minutes away from my son's dentist because I know he trusts him. We're not going to have any problems or issues.
that rapport is built over time, right? It's like
Yeah.
this consistency too. It's really interesting that you bring up the first thing, the first way that they made you feel is not necessarily how they make you feel down the line. Like I think as humans in our society, at least, we've been taught a lot. First impressions matter. It's like, okay, yeah, in the sense that you want to be recognized. You want people to give a crap about you as a human being, or the things you have to say, sure. But the whole time it matters,
The whole
right?
time.
Like the character that you establish over time, the things that you do in your idle hours, all of it matters. And that kind of goes back to the first thing that we were talking about, like, how that I was vaguely directed to dental school, right? There's I'm a firm believer in intentionality of your life. You need to have, in my opinion, a very firm grasp of your intentionality. Otherwise, the things that we assume are going to be perceived a certain way are less likely to be perceived that way if our intention isn't in line with our intended effect, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. You know, but serious pleasure, chat, Janice. I've genuinely enjoyed the time here. Do you
I have
have? Yeah,
one more
go ahead.
question.
Yeah, yeah.
I always like to ask what's in your toolbox. And so putting you in a real world situation, you've kind of alluded to this, but you have a very like nervous, anxious patient in your chair. How do you get them peaceful and calm down? It's like you have 5, 10 minutes because, you never know what you're doing. It's like you may be doing a root canal, you may be doing a cavity, you may just be, routine.
Yeah.
And you could have I think people fear the dentist more than they fear the doctor.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely. Yeah.
so you've got someone in your chair.
Yeah.
How do you get them peaceful quickly?
Well, do you want to just play it out? Do you want to be the
The
anxious
nervous
patient?
person?
Yeah.
Well, for me,
Uh-huh.
my one of the worst experiences I've ever had with a dentist, I had to get all four wisdom teeth pulled at the same time with
Wait,
no.
wait, wait, wait. Let's do it this way, okay? So you're facing the wall, okay? I haven't come into the room yet, okay?
Mhm.
So upon coming into the room, I'll be like, "Hey, hi."
Oh no, where'd you go?
So I shake your hand, Janice. Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Yeah. You seem a little frazzled. Like are you okay? Like what's your experience with past dentists been?
I only go to the dentist when my teeth hurt.
Makes a lot of sense. A lot of people are like that. No problem. Is there anything that's bothering you today? Anything I can help you with?
Um, I have to have all of my teeth pulled because I'm getting braces and they want all four wisdom teeth pulled at the same time.
Gotcha. I know. So have you ever gotten teeth extracted before?
No.
No? Okay. So I understand you might be a little nervous. Okay. Just realize that this is kind of part of a longer life scenario, right? Like you're trying to make your teeth better. And then I'll go and I'll take a look at your x-rays and I'll be like, okay, so I see some things here. You want to see if you have any questions, concerns? Do you have any questions or concerns?
Will having all four of them pulled at the same time be a bad thing?
Well, it will be uncomfortable. I'm not gonna lie to you, right? Like eating is gonna be weird. The Depending on whether or not you want to go to sleep for the procedure, if you want to stay awake, that process can be uncomfortable too. But I really want you to go into this with the mentality that, listen, like this is a part of the journey, right? And though it might be a little uncomfortable right now and you're a little anxious right now, just try to go through with it. You'll be better on the other end, I promise.
Yeah,
right?
That's a lot better than what I got.
Yeah, so it's kind of the toolbox is treating people like human beings, treating people like, dude, no one. I don't want to go to the. I'm a dentist. I don't want to go to the dentist. You know what I, like? It sucks. What makes it better is when you're actually dealing with a human being. So I got a hair transplant. I don't know if you can tell, but I went to Turkey a while back because I was balding pretty significantly in my 20s. And they woke me up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and I went to their facility, and they stuck me in the back of the head probably about 50 times with a needle. And that was one of the days. So 7 a.m. in the morning, I hadn't eaten anything. And I went to them and they stuck me in the back of the head, sharp sticks, probably one of the most painful experiences of my life, 50 times, right? Just to get this area numb, to get the transplants in. Okay. The difference between the second day and the first day was touch. The person that was doing the injections the first day was touching more, right? And they were making sure that I was comfortable. B, when they were doing the injections and prior to that, they made some jokes with their friends. There was some laughter in the air, right? There was a lighter vibe about it. It was also slightly later in the morning, but like all of these little things, they really, really, really matter.
They do.
You know?
So
So I guess awareness of these things is also part of the toolbox.
it is, and I appreciate you taking the time to take a real world example and put it into how you would really handle it. Thank you. Appreciate
Pleasure. I mean, what better way, right?
Yeah. And I want to thank you for taking the time out of your Sunday morning to join us here on Unique Peace and talk peace with us.
My pleasure. Seriously. Anytime if you want to do this again, I'm sure we have lots to talk about.
Absolutely. I think that having you on again will be in the future because as life evolves, so do our techniques and tips.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Janice, for having me on. This will be the first podcast, someone else's podcast that I've been on, and genuine pleasure. Would recommend to anyone.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would like to put you in the green room really quick and be back. I want to thank everybody who joined us today live and who will be watching in the replay. Again, you can catch Turab's videos on Turabify. They're on YouTube. Again, he's also on Instagram as Turabify as well. And if you are in Ohio, you can look him up if you need a dentist. Have a great and wonderful Sunday. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you next week.